Hello, I'm Alejandra, and I will be doing the first questions for our first assignment. Um, so the first question is if I see myself including religion to my work. And the truth is that I think that it depends on the agency on which I work for. If I work for a government agency, I don't think that including religion is very practical, especially if it is just somebody that I'm trying to help them like get resources and just get settled in as the client is trying to move forward with their lives or maybe trying to find a job or anything like that. So I do think that it depends on the agency on which I'm working for. And the next question is, how do you think integrating religion would make you better? I think that if the client is willing to hear about my perspective on how religion could help them, then I think that it could help the clients turn to a more spiritual path, and that way would motivate them to not only want to move forward for themselves, but for the sake of their faith and for them to acknowledge how having faith in something can help them in the situation that they're in. And as for the negative effects, I think that they would be negative effects could be if the client is very drawn away from religion, and if somebody tries to shove religion down their throat or just like only talk about how religion can help them, then I think that the client could draw away very quickly, especially if they've had bad experiences with the church or anything that has to do with religion. And one of the stories that I resonated with was from one of the passages in chapter 2 that talks about how they came to the field of social work because of their faith, growing up in a faith which drew them to practice social work. And the one I related to the least was whenever one of the authors wrote about how they came about the profession by being in the military, and how they were very rooted in the Catholic faith, just because I think that is very different from my experience. Although it can happen, I never know what me or maybe even my future husband will have in store for them when it comes to job opportunities. But for now, I can say that is a story that I resonated with the least. And one of the stories I resonated with the most was how somebody grew up in India, and they came to God. And yes, any individuals that helped me come to this decision of wanting to become a social worker, they would be my cousins. They are both immigrants and came to the U.S. at a very young age, so they speak fluent English and fluent Spanish, but they have had many struggles trying to get a job, and it doesn't help with the situation that they grew up in. Their parent didn't have very much economic stability, and they kind of had to move from place to place. And as my cousins grew older, they were not very motivated to graduate high school or even go into any sort of college or get their GED. So whenever they had children, they had a lot of struggle, especially because their husbands ended up going to jail for other reasons. So I think going to visit them in the place that they were left in after their husbands were arrested, and seeing the state in which their children lived in, and knowing their children, and knowing that they're super caring and smart kids, but were living in places that were not very beneficial to their upbringing, was a big motivator for me. And going over to their places in a time where I was very rooted in my faith helped me see how only God could really help them, especially because I was only a sophomore in high school and there wasn't really much I could do, but I knew that I wanted to be in a position to be able to help families like this and people who are in the same situation as them. So yes, I think my one of my biggest motivators were my cousins, especially because they are both Latina females, and I think I can relate to them in that manner. And yes, my faith, like I said, was a big motivator because I know that in that time, which I saw them struggling, I just knew that the only one who could help them overcome their situation was God. And I just said a lot of prayers for them and had a mentor help me out on what I could do as a 16-year-old girl. So yes.